What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show. Again, we're live here on Dsm Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channels. Happy Friday, as my man D-Rab and Pastor Rams are saying in the comments. And if you guys want to be involved in the rest of these comments, make sure to do us a favor. If you're watching on Twitter, we greatly appreciate you. But like I said, if you want to be involved, if you want to get your questions, your thoughts in on everything we're discussing today, make sure to head over to the YouTube link specifically, smash that subscribe button, like this video, whatever you got to do. But it's the best spot to get your comments pulled up with your host. I'm on half of them this morning, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. The Phillies head out west to start a 9-game West Coast trip. Tonight it starts in Seattle against the Mariners. Then they head over to take on the Dodgers, then down to take on the Diamondbacks. A lot to get into. What does a successful West Coast trip look like for the Phillies right now in this big slump that they're in? And the Eagles hosted 50,000 at the link last night for their first of two open practices for the fans this summer. We're going to get into some of the clips that were posted on Twitter. We're going to get into some of the takeaways, how Jalen Hurts looked, how the defense looked, and who's standing out so far early on in training camp. But Scotty, my man, what's going on? And happy Friday.
Happy Friday, my man. Not much going on, just getting ready for the weekend here. But yeah, we got some entertainment last night, at least through social media. I didn't go out to the link last night and actually watch the open practice, but just seeing all the updates that were coming through X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. It was just nice having football back, man. You had the Hall of Fame game last night, obviously, as well, which you get a little bit of entertainment there. Didn't watch too much of that, I won't lie to you. But you know, at the end of the day, I wasn't trying to watch too much of the backups. If it was, Caleb playing out there, I might have tuned in a little bit.
I watched the first half, surprisingly.
It was good to have it.
I had money on it for some reason. So
so
it wasn't terrible, man. To be honest with you, I mean, you had Davis Mills and Case Keenum for the Texans. You had Brett Rippon playing for the Bears, who's played in this league before. Cam Akers was out there. Ben Skoranek was out there. Khalil Herbert was out there. So there were guys. There was actually on offense a decent amount of like actual NFL talent on the field. And I mean, I cashed the over in the first half, so obviously they were moving the ball a decent amount.
That's why you're talking highly.
Yeah, and then I was good.
They're not sounding great, Dylan. I'm not gonna lie.
No. They're not. Listen, if this was a week 4, 1:00 Sunday game, and I was explaining these names, we would go, "Why the hell are you paying attention to that game?" But for the Hall of Fame game on August 1st, that's a fine
no Phillies
to view.
Yeah. It's fair. I'm just messing with you. It's fair. And especially no Phillies on last night. There's nothing really else to watch as well. Just to have football back, the commentating, it is nice. So I'm not hating on you for real, man. Cash your slips.
No, I know. I'm fucking with you. Yeah, man. From what we've heard, the clips that we've seen, obviously Elliott Shore-Parks from WIP keeps Jalen Hurts stats, apparently. However accurate they are from each and every practice. Last night, evidently, he was 19 of 24, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions at the open practice. And he's been on fire his last 2 to 3. And it's good to see. It's good to see the different things, the new things Kellen Moore is installing in this offense. And I've seen a couple different tweets now and a couple different TikToks from people I respect talking about, how the offense is getting the better of the defense, which is kind of expected, especially, before the pads are on, guys are in shorts and t-shirts and it's easier to keep up and whatever. Yeah. But it's nice to see. And the only reason I say that, like, I get how you could take it as a negative for the defense. Well, our defense struggled greatly in the last 7 to 8 weeks of last season, and you don't want to hear negative things about them. But I'm looking at this offense and I'm seeing clips of all the pre-snap motion. I'm seeing the pistol being used with Saquon Barkley behind Jalen Hurts. I'm seeing Jalen lined up on their center, handing it off to Saquon Barkley. A couple plays later, rolling out to his right for a play action bootleg pass, touchdown to Dallas Goedert. I'm watching him throw off balance, avoiding pressure, 45 yards down the field in stride to A.J. Brown as he beats Darius Slay for like a 40-yard touchdown. I'm watching all these things and I'm just going, yes, 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 because the defense, there's young guys, there's new guys. We're going to see how that goes. But the offense has the bulk of the talent, right? They have a former MVP runner-up in quarterback. They have a top 3 new toy in running back. They have a top 5 wide receiver. They have a top 12 to 15 wide receiver. They have a top, for my money and your money, probably a top 5 tight end. They have a top 5 offensive line. That's where the money is. That's where I think this team's ceiling gets elevated and this offense gets back on track for all the talent they have. And from what I'm seeing from Jalen so far, what I'm seeing from Kellen Moore's offense so far has me excited, even though it's only August 2nd.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I do see the point in, maybe having some concerns about the defense that's struggling against the offense in an open practice. Like, I'm not going to have concerns about it, but I would say it should be expected. Like you said, this is an offense that, for our money, the only reason we are so down, if we're down at all, I shouldn't even say so down. We're just a little skeptical, right? After last season, the meltdown.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I still have nightmares about it, Scotty.
It happened at the end of the season. But that's the only reason. Like, that's the only reason. We looked at the play calling last year. We see Nick Sirianni coming back this year. That's the only reason to think lowly of this offense. And that's why it's so funny. You look at some of these rankings. I think it was PFF that the Eagles offense ranked outside of their top 10 projections, which is just absolutely nuts when you look at the talent on offense. So, to your point, I think it should be expected that the offense is going to be geared up, ready to go, ready to bounce back and look a lot better than what they looked at the end of last season, because you know how frustrating that is when you're going and losing to the Cardinals, man, and losing to like the Giants. I can't remember if they lost to the Giants or not. But even having close games with the Giants last year, going into the postseason against Tampa Bay and getting smacked up, that was embarrassing for these guys who are talented, pedigreed type of guys. They come from big colleges. They've come to the NFL and put their name out there, made themselves big name players. So these guys don't take it lightly, man. You knew they were going to come back. And to TR's point, a guy like Quinyon, guys like that, the rookies, right, that are out there, some of the newer guys on the team that are out there on defense, because the defense has kind of been overhauled. You look at the secondary, there's Reed Blankenship, there's Darius Slay, and then the other 2 guys in that secondary are going to be brand new. You go to the linebacker position, going to be 2 brand new linebackers outside of Nakobe Dean. You go down to the defensive line, you got Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter stepping into full-time roles. So what I'm trying to say, with all that in mind about the defense, even going into the regular season, I think we need to kind of temper expectations. The offense might have to carry us for the first 4 games until the defense can try to figure it out. The young guys get acclimated, the new guys get acclimated. So, yeah, I think this kind of should be the outlook on the season. The offense is going to be the powerhouse of the team. That is where our strong point is going to come from. It's not going to be the defense, but you do hope your defense can be top 10 by the end of the season, top 12 by the end of the season.
I mean, Scotty, with this offense, man, if you have a league average defense, slightly above average, I think you're good. Like if you have if your defense is ranked 13th in the National Football League, and you have a top 3 offense, like they could be.
That's us being modest with our like expectations for guys like Quinyon Mitchell, or guys like Devin White, guys like Bryce Huff, right? Like we're tempering our expectations. They're saying maybe a top 12
because there's unknown there. Yeah,
they could be top 10 if those guys pan out and actually live up to their caliber player that they can be. If Quinyon Mitchell can hit the ground running in his rookie season and become one of those corners like you talked about before in previous shows, guys like Sauce Gardner, right, come straight into the league and become a number 1 guy. If he can do stuff like that, then yeah, we might get into top 7, top 5 conversations as a defense, man. But the offense should start the season in top 5, top 3 conversations, top offense conversations. Your only argument in reality is a Patrick Mahomes-led offense, right? When you look at things on paper, in my opinion, like maybe the Bengals, maybe the Texans down there, they kind of stacked up. There's offenses out there. Don't get me wrong. the Eagles are in that conversation. Like you look across the board,
Undoubtedly.
they're
Like,
stacked. And
you know, the Lions are going to be up
if
there, the
Jalen Hurts is
Niners, the
balling like that,
Dolphins. There's going to be a lot of teams, man. And that's the point. It's an offensive league now. The rules are more geared towards giving advantages to offensive players. They want points. They want scoring. That's the type of league. That's why, running the ball and running backs it's not one guy for the most part. It's not, it's not 28 carries per game like it used to be in the mid 2000s and everything like that. The game is different. And we bring up the offense as well, Scotty. I just wanted to check here. I wasn't ignoring you. I was checking my other screen real quick. The Eagles last year, even with all of their flaws, all of the ugliness, the coaching, the play calling, Jalen's injuries, Goddard's injuries, AJ's injuries, they were 8th in total yards and 7th in total points in offense last year. With all of that, with no Saquon Barkley, with all of those issues, they were still top 7 and 8 in points and yards per game last year. I think that tells you all you need to know with what this quarterback can lead. Listen, again, I don't want to harp too much on him because when you talk training camp and preseason, you really want to look at the I don't know, the fringes of things. You want to look at the camp battles. You want to look at who's going to make the roster. But he's such a X factor in terms of ceiling for this team compared to last year.
Yeah. And I think even when we're evaluating Jalen Hurts and the way he performed last year, as we start to see this offense unfold, you mentioned all the different things that we're seeing involved in the offense now, different formations, different motion before the snap, lining up under the center for Jalen, right?
It's
going
crazy,
under the center and giving a handoff to the running back. That's new in this offense. And so to that point, when we're sitting analyzing Jalen from last season, we have to keep in mind how bad that offense was ran last year. Like, to TR's point in the comments about the tush push, like, I'm not like completely against it. Like, I don't want to.
Well, when you're at the half-yard
line, at the goal line, do it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I do feel it. It's like it became like the best play in our offense, and it's meant for a 1-yard gain.
Yeah.
So like that's not what our offense needs to be known for. Our offense needs to be high flying. We need to be sore. Like, I'm not trying to be corny, but we need to be like the Eagles, man. Like, we need to be a high-flying, soaring offense, like scoring a lot of points. And, we're going to run the ball. I know that. It's just, I don't know. Every game we go into, the commentators are talking about the tush push, the brotherly shove. And it's like it became like this household thing. And it's like on a 3rd and 3, we should not be doing it. Like, it might work, but we just shouldn't be doing that. We should have something else in our bag that we can get that 3 yards a little bit easier and not put our quarterback under that type of stress. So
for sure,
I don't know. It'll be interesting. But Jalen does look healthier. I will say that.
Right. And another thing I'm looking at, man, when it comes to this offense, and I know we're going to get into more specific plays and highlights from last night's open practice, but I'm looking at how he was spreading the ball around last night because he was. AJ was getting involved. Smitty was getting involved. Goddard had a couple passes in a row, a couple touchdowns. They were using Will Shipley. They were using Saquon a little bit in the passing game. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm hearing AJ Brown talk about the interaction between him and Quinyon Mitchell on those 1-on-1 clips and how they were barking at each other, and hearing AJ Brown, I don't know. Like, we know how personalities got last year, taking to social media and egos and stuff. And, I hear AJ Brown and I'm like, all right, what's he got? Like, what does he think about the rookie barking at him in training camp? Right. And he talks about loving it and getting the best out of the rookie and wanting the rookie. And I'm like, yes. And when I look at this offense, man, they have so many options and weapons that if guys can just buy in, I don't want to say roles. This isn't Sixers knowing your role. There's way too much talent to be role defined. It can be anyone's Sunday. But like I was saying to you before the show, right? Like Jalen, maybe he's not the most comfortable operating from under center. Maybe that's not the way he's most comfortable, with receiving the ball, with his drop back, everything like that. But when you talk about advantages to running the football, especially behind this big, bulky offensive line that can get to the second level, when you talk about a guy like Saquon Barkley, like there is a difference, Scotty. You and I talked about it all last year with their running plays. There's a difference from from getting a shotgun snap, turning, handing to a running back that's basically flat-footed, and then him having to get upfield past the rush, right? Versus him hands on
Picking up
knees,
momentum.
4, 5, 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage, picking up that momentum, like you said, getting the ball and bang, hitting a hole in stride. There's a difference there. And when you have a top 3 to 5 running back like Saquon Barkley and his explosiveness, you want to give him that advantage. So my point to all of this was, it might not make QB1 the most comfortable sometimes handling and operating that way. But if it's going to benefit number 26, you got to learn how to do it. It might not make A.J. Brown the most comfortable to play on the outside or play in the slot or do whatever. But if it's going to open up Smitty or Goddard, you got to do it. And I think if this team buys into that, which I'm not saying they never have, I'm just saying with all this talent, you got to be willing to sacrifice and give and spread the ball around in this offense.
Yeah, it just takes me back to that Seattle game. And I know, once again, that was like the game where Jalen had the flu going into the game. And, you have all this happen, the Drew Lock shit at the end of the game, the drive. Last season towards the end, man, it was miserable. It was really miserable for the way it started. It was unreal. But going back to that game, it kind of speaks to what you're talking about, where at the end of that game, you see Jalen force that, 40-yard pass to A.J. Brown to get picked off. And it's just like, man, it almost just felt like you guys were going there no matter what. Like, whether it's open or not, I'm throwing it up there for A.J. And I know that's a level of trust, but that's also a level of mistrust in the rest of your team and in the offense. And so when you're going on drives like that, that's what I see when I hear you talking about that, because that's what it feeds into. A.J. Brown might not get the ball in this big play in the game, but maybe what he's doing in the actual play that's not seen by us as a casual viewer goes on to benefit Smitty, Goddard, and get them a touchdown, get them a big first down. And I think that is the kind of stuff we need to see now, right? Like, they had the first year with Sirianni and or the second year, excuse me, go to the Super Bowl, right? And it was kind of just unexpected in a sense, right? We start playing really well, and then all of a sudden we're in Super Bowl conversations. All of a sudden we're in the Super Bowl. Then the next year, it's almost like we had a little bit too much. I don't want to say like confidence. You can never have too much confidence.
I know. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
A little bit of arrogance in a sense, right? Like we're getting back there. Like we're already in there after the NFC. Season. You know what I mean? And I think getting humbled like that at the end of last year, it forces you to change your mentality that you go into the season with. And I think now, hopefully they just have each other's backs, right? We don't see any of this like bickering on the field, any of this. There's going to be turmoil throughout a season. It's a long ass season. There's a lot of hearts grinding that goes into the season, but I just think that togetherness is kind of what we're talking about. Just being willing to sell out for one another.
There's so much goddamn talent on this offense. And I think people, maybe inside Philadelphia, maybe even fans are sleeping on it, but especially outside, when you look at these rankings, when you hear, respected people, former players talk about different teams and offenses and expectations around the league, like I feel like I'm losing my mind sometimes, Scotty, because you talked about forcing it to A.J. Brown, especially at the end of the game, not just at the end of the game. Sometimes you want to look at getting someone involved early, right? Getting Smitty targets early this week for whatever reason, getting Saquon the ball in his hands this week for whatever reason. I'm not saying those things aren't fair, but there is just too much talent to try to force feed someone the ball. And I look around the league, man, even take a Cincinnati Bengals team that's loaded on offense. And you could say Joe Burrow's a difference maker, but I'm saying take the quarterback aside. Both are top 10 and are for our money. One's higher, obviously, whatever. Jamar Chase, okay, whatever. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Zach Moss, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, and Dallas Goedert. Right? You that's a Cincinnati Bengals team that people think is like top 3 offense in the league. Bro, people have the Green Bay Packers offense.
Wide receiver 3 as well, Boyd, right? Like they lost him.
Yeah, he's gone. Right.
The Titans, I believe.
Right. I don't know who their tight end is now. I have no idea. Right. So like that's a factor.
Yeah, I'm not
people have the Green Bay Packers offense up there, Scotty. Like what? Josh Jacobs, Romeo Dobbs, and Christian Watson? Like, what are we talking about? So, like, I really do.
Yeah,
Like, people, I think
you.
people are taking that collapse by the Eagles last year. And don't get me wrong, no one took it harder than we did. And Nick Sirianni might not be the head coach if we were in charge. And maybe that would be a mistake at this point in time. But people are really forgetting, I think, who and what this Eagles team is, man. And that's what kind of has me so excited for the start of the season is like, look, they're playing in Brazil. It's a Friday night. It's definitely going to be a weird opener. I'm not trying to sleep too hard on the Packers. And I don't know if we're going to win whatever. It's August 2nd. But, man, people are sitting here like this is a toss-up. I'm sorry. This ain't a toss-up for me. Now, I'm not saying the Eagles are going to be favored by 9 points. But the Eagles should win this fucking ball game.
They're 1.5 point favorites right now.
Scotty, it makes me almost want to do it on August 2nd. It makes me almost want to put my money on it now before we get closer to the season and this moves to like 4.5 or 5.
I do feel you, man. Who knows?
Me, maybe it swings the other way. Maybe it swings to Packers end up favored by 2 points by the time kickoff comes around. I don't know. But it's just that's what has me even more geared up. You were sending me some tweets last night, and we could talk about that in a second too. The Dan Orlovsky quarterback list, other people's quarterback list, not in the league. Like I'm not even like talking about Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson and CJ Stroud. I'm talking the goddamn NFC. Hold on, I'm talking the best quarterback in the NFC is wearing midnight and Kelly Green, and he's not even in people's top 5s, dude. The rest of the world is not paying attention to the Eagles right now, and I kind of love
it. No, that's kind of what I was getting at. Like from what you're saying, like I'm looking at the Packers roster, and I'm looking at their offense, and like sure, like Romeo Dobbs and Jalen Reed, and I mean I like Josh Jacobs. Sure, he's a top 5 running back. I just
we don't know.
The only conclusion I can come to is that people are completely down on Jalen Hurts right now, and that's crazy because, like you said, the top 5 quarterback in the NFC, you have guys like Kirk Cousins, who's coming off a torn Achilles or ACL.
Yeah,
he's better with the Falcons on a new team than Jalen Hurts with the Eagles. Jared Goff.
Hold on, Kirk Cousins, who doesn't win in the primetime. Kirk Cousins, who doesn't win in the postseason. Kirk Cousins, who's never beaten Jalen Hurts head-to-head, is better than Jalen Hurts. Scotty, and here's the thing I can't get behind with these lists. I think you and I have talked about it before when they initially came out, is the hypocritic, it's so amazing to me, their rationale for some of these lists, okay? Actually, it was a TikTok I sent you. So if you're going to tell me, like, for instance, this one kid said that had Brock Purdy ahead of CJ Stroud. And his rationale for having CJ Stroud as low on his list as he did was it was 1 year he needs to see it more. But his rationale for Brock Purdy being so high was, did you see what Brock Purdy did in his first year? Brother, you just spoke on these dudes back to back. How is that your rationale? You're contradicting yourself. It's the same thing for Jalen Hurts. If you want to say that Jalen Hurts had a very bad year last year, had a very down year last year, that's fine. If you want to drop him a couple slots in your overall rankings, I can kind of hear you. But you can't take that rationale and then tell me that 1 year of Brock Purdy is the reason he's a top 2 quarterback in the NFC. So one good year and one bad year makes that much of a difference. It doesn't make any sense, Scotty.
It doesn't, man. And I think the biggest problem is when you start to look at these situations. I mean, even Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback. He's a great quarterback.
From an arm talent perspective, I can probably get
better than Hurts from arm talent.
Yeah.
But overall impact on a game throughout a season, Jalen Hurts, it's not really that close, man. And I'll take it even a step further just to, this is obviously a Philadelphia-based show. Dak Prescott is the second best quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. He is the second best quarterback
maybe I would
behind
put
Jalen
Stafford
Hurts.
ahead of him. Maybe I'd put Stafford ahead of him.
Maybe he would be third.
Yeah.
Maybe Golf is good,
But if we're talking
Better than
playing
Hurts?
quarterback, like
Better than
Goff
Dak
is just
even?
such a game manager to me that plays in an explosive
I
offense with
think
good.
it's fair, man.
I think to me, Goff is the better version of Brock Purdy. Like I think Brock Purdy and Goff are very
That's a
similar,
good
but I
way
think
to put
Goff
it.
excels at the role better. I know Purdy just made it to the Super Bowl. More things go into that with the defense and everything like that. But I view them very similarly in their styles of play. I don't think they're just these overall talented quarterbacks. And Kirk Cousins, I mean, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, seriously, Dan.
And you know one thing that we'll obviously talk about this more on Turf Talk when we start next week. But looking at going into this season, man, Jordan Love better come out and he better ball out the way guys are hyping this man up. Like he is the top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He better ball out this season because you talk about hype trains off one season.
Yep.
This guy is the epitome of that. I mean, okay, he beat the Cowboys in the playoffs.
Yeah. A lot of people do that.
All right. Like, okay. He's top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but Jalen Hurts is like borderline top 10 for people, right? Like he's 11 or 12 maybe. Like I don't get it, man. But that's what I was getting at, man. A 1.5 point favorite against the Packers. Why is that? You guys don't believe in Jalen Hurts. You don't believe in the offense, and that's I don't know. It's going to bite people in the ass this year if they really are underselling this Eagles offense because I do believe it has the potential to be the best offense in the NFL. If Kellen Moore is really a top 4 offensive coordinator in the NFL, this offense can be the best offense in the NFL, man.
I agree wholeheartedly. I was just going back and looking at Jordan Love's like game by game, and it's just funny. Like, obviously, he threw for 4,100 yards. You know how many touchdowns he threw last year? 32 to 11.
He had a great season.
He had a very, very good year, but it more so came in the second half. Like he had a stretch, bro. And I know, like, because Jalen's yards get like this too, but Jordan's not the runner that Jalen is, so it gets misconstrued. Like. Jordan Love had a stretch of 151 passing yards, 182 passing yards, 180 passing yards, 229 passing yards with a 58.5 rating, 228 passing yards with a 52.5 rating. Like, he was good. He was very good for about 9 games. Like, what are we doing?
And maybe he is a great quarterback. Like, we're not like hating on him. It's just more like, why does he get that praise?
Exactly. It's the rationale to me, man.
Like, how did Jordan Love surpass CJ Stroud?
Right.
Like, how did that happen? Like, I don't understand it, I guess. CJ Stroud is the guy that I would probably prop up there right now, even though same thing with him in a sense, right? Like one big season. But I don't know. I just look at him and I think, well, he has the pedigree. Yeah. He does have a great offense around him.
No one list is gospel, right? They're not perfect. It's up to opinion. Everybody's is different. I get it.
But ESPN, PFF, these are the household names.
Right. A, you better come with like logical list. And B, you just have to be able to give me your argument and have it make sense. Again, these things I'm seeing, man, like, you're going to tell me that heading into last year, Jalen Hurts was your 4th quarterback and Aaron Rodgers was your 7th. But because of Jalen's bad year, Jalen's 9th and Rodgers is 6th. But Rodgers didn't play last year. So how did that happen? You know what I'm talking about? Like, your rationale has to make sense. You can't tell me CJ Stroud's down here because you need to see more of it, but Brock Purdy's up here because of how good he was in year 1. They both played one whole season. Like, what are you talking about?
It's just inconsistent, man. Like, I don't know. Like,
this TR, you have to tune in to Turf Talk because this I do disagree with. This I'm higher on the Jets than probably a lot of people in that division, I'll say. But yeah. I still think Aaron Rodgers, from a talent perspective, is a top 10 quarterback. Like, I don't think that's like, you're not going to tell me Brock Purdy and Jared Goff and these dudes are better quarterbacks than Aaron Rodgers. You're just not going to sell me on that right now.
Yeah, I feel that when you're talking about those type of guys.
I get
Yeah,
the
I
age,
can
I
see
get
it.
the injury, I get the kookiness of them and not reporting to mandatory. Like I get all the drama with Aaron Rodgers, and the last time we saw him in Green Bay, he wasn't very good. I get all of it. You're not going to tell me some of these dudes are better than him right now. It's just not happening.
For his Achilles, is that what the injury was?
Yeah, which again could play a major fucking factor. Like it could
How
be
old
the
is he?
downfall of Aaron Rodgers. But I'm just saying, before we see that, no, you're not. You're
Yeah,
not
you're
going to
not
tell
gonna
me some of
be
these are
full
better.
on skeptical of Aaron Rodgers. I feel it. I feel it. I just want to. Yeah, he's 40 years old. God damn.
Yeah.
But their division is interesting nonetheless.
But that's what I'm saying,
Buffalo.
Scotty.
Like,
Won't.
what
But
is
like, to
Buffalo?
reel it kind of back into the Eagles conversation, like you're going to tell me the Eagles are down here for whatever reasons, and you're going to ignore everything they did in the offseason. But then you're still going to tell me the Buffalo Bills are like the third best team in the AFC after everything they've lost this year and added almost nothing.
And they crumble in the big moment.
Scotty, their number one receiver is a rookie in Keon Coleman. I don't even think, did they even address the running back position after losing or did they not lose him? I'm forgetting.
Oh, they have James Cook, I believe.
Okay, they still have James Cook. That's right. I was thinking of Zach Moss leaving and going to Cincinnati, but that's not from Buffalo.
Yeah. James Cook had a pretty good season last year. He's a
Yeah.
receiving threat. Did you lose Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis?
Yeah, bro. Like, and you added Mac Hollins and Chase Claypool. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah,
like,
it's interesting, man. It is interesting. It is interesting. That's what I mean, though. It's like the only reason that the Bills are still held up there is because people believe in Josh Allen. Like he can carry the Bills to that level is what people believe.
He hasn't even been to an AFC Championship game.
But Jalen Hurts,
with Stephon Diggs, like what are we doing? Listen,
Jalen Hurts can't do that.
Talent-wise, sure, you can believe in the man. There's history there, and I'm not saying he's never going to get done. I don't think he's getting it done with this team.
Yeah,
after not getting it done,
it would be wild if it was this season.
But again, Scotty,
done
how are you going to look me in my eyes?
Super Bowl.
How are you going to look me in my eyes and tell me the Bills can still compete in the AFC, a conference that holds the back-to-back champions with Patrick Mahomes, a healthy Joe Burrow and the Bengals, an upcoming CJ Stroud, a Baltimore Ravens team that was just in the AFC Championship? You're going to tell me the Bills, with all those losses and all their shortcomings, can compete in that AFC, but the Philadelphia Eagles will struggle because the Atlanta Falcons are going to be better and the Bucks are still going to be good and the Seahawks. What the fuck are you talking about?
The Falcons are getting a lot of stock. I've been seeing.
I think the Falcons are going to be a pretty decent team, especially in the NFC South. Like I know I was knocking Kirk Cousins. I still think he's a middle of the pack quarterback. And with those weapons, they'll win more games than they have. They'll compete for that division. That means in no case scenario, does that mean the Atlanta Falcons are somehow NFC contenders?
It will be an interesting season, man. We got some shifting around in the NFL this offseason.
A lot of shifting around. It was a busy offseason, dude.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to talk about, man. I'm excited for it. Obviously, that's what we get from the Hall of Fame game, the open practice for the Eagles. 50,000 fans out there last night for the Birds. You know the season is going to be it's going to be crazy.
Did you see that video of CJ Gardner-Johnson hitting that jumper in the team meeting to end?
Yeah, I did.
That's pretty funny. But like, look, man. All right, before we kind of move on here, we talked about the offense a ton, and that's kind of when you're watching an open practice, they're not really tackling, like they're kind of just stopping guys when they make contact. So it's kind of hard to look at the defense and what they're accomplishing. That's why all the clips come out from positives of the offense. But defensively, man, I want to look at a couple different position groups with you. We'll start with the linebacker because that's been one of the question marks. It's funny, you and I on Wednesday actually talked about how it's kind of been Devin White and Zach Bond as the starters. And I believe, why am I? Nakobe Dean had a just completely mind fog there. Nakobe Dean got the start with the first team last night. Seemed like a rough night for him, and it seemed like a rough night for him against Kenneth Gainwell. Is that concerning you as much as it's concerning me? Like, I get it. They're not really wrapping up and tackling and doing all those things, but like, he's not really getting all the first team reps with these expectations we've had for him. A guy like Zach Bond, who's kind of a special teamer, has been playing a little bit more than him. Now he gets the nod, and it's not Saquon cooking him. It's not Goddard over the middle. It's not even a faster, smaller Will Shipley. It's their third string. Well, for my money, their third string running back, Kenneth Gainwell.
You locked him in there, huh?
I had to. Absolutely cooking you.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, Nakobe Dean, I would say it has to be a concern. It has to be a question mark, right? Like, you obviously don't ideally want to go into the season locked in with Zach Bond as a starting linebacker, right? You got Devin White, and we're hoping that he can bounce back and become something close to what he was before. Maybe not what he was before, but a good linebacker, right? That's why you bring him in. But Nakobe Dean really is that guy that we were expecting out of all the guys in the last couple drafts that we've drafted for that position. He was the guy probably drafted the highest when it comes to linebacker. So, yeah, we've been kind of just waiting. You know, the first season he's coming in injured. You didn't expect much. Last year, you expect him to come out. He's an expected starter. Gets injured very early on in the season. Misses a big chunk of the season. Never really gets back into the flow. So, yeah, when you really start to lock in on Nakobe Dean, I think we get mystified by, Georgia and the connection that those guys have and the level that, Jalen Carter can reach and Jordan Davis can reach. And maybe even Nolan Smith can reach that. Keely Ringo is kind of coming into fruition right now as a corner in the NFL. Nakobe Dean is that guy where what have we really seen? And I'm not throwing him out like trash. It's not like that. It's like this is probably a make or break season for him as far as being like someone to like even kind of rely on, right? We're not even full on relying on him, but
I don't want to count him out already because I want him to be the starter. I want him and Devin White. I want him to pan out. I want him to be the steal of the draft like we thought 2 years ago. I'm not trying to say this disrespectfully.
And there's nothing out there.
Like, really look at me, look at Nakobe Dean. I'm not the NFL player. I'm not the D1 college football captain.
Yeah.
I'm none of this, okay? But injuries aside early on, it seem like up here, which we know the football IQ is the thing we were drawn to, right? He gets everyone like he's so smart out there directing everything, orchestrating everything for a defense. It almost seems like up here doesn't match the body. And what I mean by that is, what were the concerns about Nakobe Dean?
His size.
He's extremely undersized, kind of.
Yeah.
And you got shorter legs. Well, you're most likely, unless you're Darren Sproles, not as quick as most guys in the National Football League. And it just shows you the level. Yeah, you could be a standout even at Georgia. But when you reach this level, there is a different gear to it. And I'm not trying to count him out at all. Just saying you're getting burnt on a wheel route by Kenneth Gainwell. Yeah. That's something we would laugh at other linebackers at. Like if we're being honest, like that's like Nate Gary flashback versus the Steelers type of production. And it's like, I can't have that on the football field, and you wonder why. Like, it's not the IQ, it's not the football mind, it's not the want to. Is it just the physical traits aren't aligning?
Yeah, you try not to put too much stock in the one play, but it's like when you point out that play.
Well, not even that. He also got his ankles broken apparently on a run by Gainwell.
But it makes you look at his total production over his career so far. And he has, 17 games played in his rookie season or 2022, 13 total tackles, 9 solo, no sacks, nothing else, right? Really nothing else. 5 games played last year. He had 30 total tackles, 22 solo, and a half a sack. And we go into this season, like, I guess being like kind of optimistic about what he can do as a starter at the linebacker position. And maybe that is a little foolish is what I'm coming to the realization of. But like you said, I'm not throwing him completely under the bus or throwing him out. It's just something I'm going to keep my eye on with the
I don't want
defense, for
people to
sure.
have the blind faith in him because of the expectation and the hype.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is like, we have these fans when we draft guys or younger guys, they want to give these longer leashes to, and they want to believe that this is who they are. But these same people that are like hyping up Nakobe Dean so much that I've seen are the same people that'll tell you Devin White can't play. And it's like you just read the health and the numbers. And then Devin White has like a 4.5 sack season, a 5 sack season, a 4 sack season, all these tackles, forced fumbles, etc. And you're going to tell me that guy can't play, but the guy with 22 games and half a career sack can play. Like, I don't want you to have that blind faith as a fan.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I think it's something to pay attention to as we go into the season, and maybe it's something they address. I don't really know who's out there, who's available at the linebacker position, but I don't know. Justin Simmons, once again, it brings you back to that point, and he's kind of a bigger safety, I would say, right? Like,
right,
more
and that's where a healthy Cooper DeJean comes into play too, man. Like, I'm interested if they get fully healthy and all these guys can go. I'm interested to see what Fangio does, because there's got to be different ways you can get 2 safeties in CJ Gardner-Johnson and a Reed Blankenship on the field, and also involve Cooper DeJean. Now, maybe that's in the slot, but he drops down into the box and does different things. Like, he's not a traditional linebacker by any stretch. Like, he played corner at Iowa, but he can do a lot of different things. And it's like, okay, if Nakobe Dean's not working out and Zach Bond's more of a special teamer, you're not going to start like a Cooper DeJean or whoever down as a linebacker, but you could do 3 safeties, 2 corners, etc., and find different ways to get them involved and just be playmakers. Because that's at the end of the day, that's what I need, Scotty. The best talent should see the field. And I know you can't just say, well, position aside, because football is not basketball. We can't call this positionless, right? Because at the end, 40-year-old, 38-year-old Brandon Graham might not be Cooper DeJean. I'm not trying to suggest Cooper DeJean can just get on the field over Brandon Graham, obviously. But I'm saying, when you talk about the linebacker position connecting the back end to the defensive line, I think you can find a way to get the younger talent on the field, and maybe exclude the lesser talent in a Nakobe Dean, in a Zach Bond, etc.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think through it right now. You would have 11 guys on the field, so you'll have Slay, you'll have CB2, whoever that will be. You have safety.
4.
And right now we're talking about 2 linebackers. Usually, right, 4 down linemen, like you have 2 edge rushers, 2 defensive tackles, you'd have 3 linebackers. So in my mind, I'm thinking 2 linebackers,
another edge
and we're
rusher,
already kind of putting in that slot corner,
right,
or that nickel corner, or that safety, that hybrid safety in there. So I don't know. Is that what we're looking at? Like, can you go into a season without having an option for a 3 linebacker set? I don't know. Like, 3 reliable linebackers, but who were they last year? You know what I mean?
Right.
But maybe that was an issue at the same time when you look at the way our defense performed.
Especially when you're talking like,
especially
when you're talking like in coverage situations, man. Like when you're talking about a guy having to cover the running back out of the backfield, or the quicker tight end. Like, who am I going to want out there? Am I going to want Nakobe Dean out there trying to get out in the open field and cover, Christian McCaffrey? Or am I going to want Cooper DeJean down in the box being the guy that's following around Christian McCaffrey? Because that's an X factor to me. Like, again, it's not traditional. Like, he's a cornerback. He's a slot guy. He can play safety. He's back there to cover one-on-one, different type of things. But again, like, the better players should get on the field for my money in those situations. And if you're talking about not a run-stopping situation, but if you think, okay, it's 3rd and 7, Christian McCaffrey is coming out of the backfield, would you rather have your linebacker trying to cover him in open space, or would you rather have a Cooper DeJean out there or someone like that can cover him in open space? That's where I think Fangio can get creative enough and not just be traditional with his defense.
No, I do agree. I'm just curious who is going to be like that guy. Like Cooper DeJean, he sounds like he would be that guy. I just with the injury, I don't see him coming out
How acclimated he
week
can get
one
quickly enough.
and just being in the starting lineup on the defense. Like, who is gonna be that 11th man? Like between your secondary or your linebackers, are they gonna put another man up on the line and maybe start with five pass rushers? Like I don't know. It's interesting to think about because there's only 2 linebackers that I would like, maybe 3, but like, do you want Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, and Devin White on the field at the same time? Like,
exactly.
No, I don't. I would actually rather like read Blankenship.
I mean, I have heard good things about Jalen Hunt. I have heard things about Jalen Hunt.
He's like one of those versatile pieces that can do a little bit of everything. I get like a tweener, right?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
I don't know. It's interesting, man.
The only
we have a ton of secondary help.
Yeah, the thing I fear is like I'm stuck between, like, on offense we've talked about. Well, that's never a bad thing to have too many of, etc. With this position issue, I'm caught between it's a good thing to have a problem of, or it's a bad thing. Obviously, it's a bad thing not to know the linebacker specifically, but it's also a good thing you do have those versatile guys on the back end that can help in different ways that we haven't had before. So I'm stuck between the two. If we didn't have Scotty, if they didn't go out and acquire both of those corners in the draft, or if they did, but CJ Gardner-Johnson wasn't here to start at safety or whatever, I would be really concerned about the linebacker position and the back end of this defense. But I don't think that's the case with everything they did in the secondary.
So it looks like they have Nolan Smith on ESPN. They have Nolan Smith listed as the sub linebacker.
Right.
But so he would be the third. So it's Zach Bond, Devin White, and Nolan Smith Jr. right now.
Well, here's the funny thing. On ESPN, they actually have 4 linebacker spots and 3 defensive line spots. They have Bryce Huff listed as a weak side linebacker.
Yeah.
They have Zach Bond as a left inside. They have Devin White as a right inside, and they have Nolan Smith as a strong side linebacker, strong side linebacker. Jesus, can I speak? But like, obviously, that's not how they're going to run their defense. It just leaves the question up in the air, like, how are they going to do it?
Because they even have
right now they have Milton Williams as a D end, Bryce Huff as a linebacker, Josh Sweat as a backup linebacker. Like, obviously, that's not the depth chart. Like, that's not where these guys are going to be playing. So it's like, it leaves it up to interpretation for where these guys will really be in our minds on August 2nd.
It's interesting, man. They could run some sets like that, I guess. Like, you'd have Bryce Huff and basically Nolan Smith on the outside of Milton Williams and Jalen Carter, who have their hands in the ground. Like, that's what I'm seeing, like a front of 5 pass rushers, basically, in that case. And maybe you drop a Nolan Smith into coverage. But that's exactly what we were seeing with Hassan Reddick last year that was kind of pissing us off. You know what I mean? They don't even have Josh Sweat starting.
I know, that's what I'm saying. They have Josh Sweat as the backup weak side linebacker behind Bryce Huff. Like, and they have Jalen Carter listed as a right defensive end. Like, obviously, that's not how the Eagles are going to be operating. So it just leaves everything up for, like, we just have to watch. And that's what the preseason is going to be for, man. Yeah, it might not be these specific players out there, but you'll at least see how Fangio wants to run his defense. Not his playbook, but you're going to see the scheme and the setup and everything like that. So formation-wise.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. The defense is almost a little more interesting in the sense of, like, what are they exactly going to look like? Whereas the offense, it's like they're more exciting. Mm-hmm. We know what we're going to get from the offense in a sense. It should be explosive. It should be a top 5 offense. The defense is just more intriguing from the sense of, like, what is this really going to look like this year? There's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of guys that can play in different spots, but do you have the guys that can be there on every down, right? And that's where Devin White is going to come in. Like, we're locking Devin White in there as, like, this perennial starter this season.
Yeah.
he's got to show up and be the leader there in that linebacker core. So,
Basically, what we're trying to get across is the linebacker position is the biggest question mark on this Eagles team. Like, obviously, right guard is a battle. We don't know who it's going to be, and obviously that's very important to this offensive success. But I have faith around the rest of that offensive line that whether it's Tyler Steen or Mekhi Becton, that they will be able to be good enough in that slot to get things done. Whereas this linebacker issue, I have no idea who's going to be good enough or not. Like you said, like right now they have Nolan Smith listed as that guy. We know Nolan Smith is more of a stand-up type of edge rusher right off the edge of the line of scrimmage. If Nolan Smith is forced to drop back into coverage and is getting torched,
what's the other option?
Right. Like, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is not really a type of coverage linebacker. He wasn't injured at Clemson. He's injured early on. So, like, I don't know.
Not even an option.
We'll see, man. We'll certainly see what Fangio and company decide to do. But like you said, I think that's kind of why we started with saying the offense is going to have to lead this team early on until the defense gets its footing. Unless the defense just completely fucking surprises us and Vic Fangio has these guys ready to go because maybe he's just that type of coach. Maybe he's just that type of leader. He gets guys to know their roles, and they're going to execute those roles to success. So we don't know, obviously, where we are still a month away from kickoff. But man, it feels close, doesn't it?
Just one open practice gets us, 50 minutes of conversation.
Right. And meanwhile, Scotty, while we're still over a month away from football starting for us, we are about 2 months away from the Phillies regular season ending, which is why I try to tell everybody to calm the F down on Wednesday's show. Like, think about that. We're so hyped for football, and football seems so close, yet we still have over a month away. And then you have to tack on another month of regular season baseball after that. That's how much time is left for the regular season. So please, just cut the shit and relax yourselves. Obviously, we did Wednesday's show. They lost Wednesday. I get it. DJ LeMahieu, who's been awful this year for the Yankees, has lost playing time most of the year, scores all 6 runs for the New York Yankees, including a grand slam in the second inning or the third inning, whenever it was, against Christopher Sanchez. And it was just a weird game. You can't blame the bats, right? I mean, they battled back. They got down 4-0 early. They battled back. Then they went down 6-3 again. Then they came back 6-5. You can't really ultimately blame them. But before we get into this West Coast trip, I do just want to put out this PSA for everybody. Because it is the same group of people that I had to do a State of the Union for, which are the people that are in panic mode right now. What was something we talked about on Wednesday's show, Scotty? The Phillies will go as who goes?
Their leaders, right. Bryce Harper, and in that line.
And Bryce Harper's stretch continued, maybe even more drastically worse on Wednesday afternoon. He's going to be, it's Bryce Harper. Like, can everybody, I know, like, I get it. He's striking out. He's hitting into game-ending double plays. Maybe you saw the play in the bottom of the 9th against the Yankees when the ball got deflected and you thought he wasn't hustling. Maybe he could have beat that out. It's Bryce fucking Harper. And I love what people have literally asked me, well, how do you know he's going to be okay? How do I know? The same reason I know this team's going to be okay, Scotty, because the history, the proof is in the pudding, man. If Bryce Harper retired right now, Scotty, Bryce Harper is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's maybe slightly past his prime. Maybe he's not prime Bryce Harper. I don't know. But like, Bryce Harper is going to be okay. And when Bryce Harper becomes okay, the Phillies will get back to where they need to be. And that's all I can really say to you guys. Like, I can't keep hanging on each and every game and hoping this is the outcome to change your guys' minds, because obviously if they go on the road and win tonight, that's not going to change anybody's mind. Oh, well, great. They won one game. All I have to say is Bryce Harper will be okay. Trey Turner will be okay. And when those two are okay, the team will be okay. And for all those people out there that think this is the worst stretch in Phillies baseball history and it's just like the Eagles collapse, etc., just want you guys to know, last year's World Series champion, the Texas Rangers, went 4-11 in 15 games in the middle of their season last year. The 2008 and 2009 Phillies that won a World Series and went back to a World Series in 2009 had stretches of 4-12 and 4-13 in the middle of their year. So for all those people that think this is the worst collapse in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies, and they're no longer a good baseball team, I don't know how many times I have to tell you, it's a long season, and it happens to every team every year. The teams that win the World Series go through this. The teams that get to the playoffs go through this. So fucking calm down, man.
Let me ask you this. What will make you be concerned? Like, what will turn it on for you to become concerned with the way they're playing? Like, is it going to take 5, 6, 7 losses in a row? Like, where would that turning point be for you, I guess, is what I'm asking.
As crazy as this sounds, I'm going to say it's still going to take a lot, because Bryce Harper could struggle this entire road trip for 10 games in a row, and I'm still not going to be concerned about Bryce Harper in the playoffs. Trey Turner could continue to struggle. I'm not going to be concerned about Trey Turner. I think the thing that I would look at the most, and it can't be one more series or two. It would have to be maybe the entire road trip, or even coming back if you get to the like August 15th, 20th type of point, and the bullpen is struggling still. Like Matt Strom's giving up runs, Kirkring's giving up runs, Alvarado can't find his command, and Zach Wheeler has 2 more bad. Like, it would take that type of issues from the pitching staff to continue for me to be like, okay, something's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like Ranger comes back from the IL and sucks his next 2 starts. Wheeler gives up another 3-run home run game, and they lose 7-1. Like I said with the bullpen, those things would have to continue for 2 more weeks or so for me to be like, oh shit, something really isn't okay with this team. Because again, man, like I don't know how, there's nothing the bats can do. Like, there's nothing more negative the bats can do. They can't really be any worse. And I just know, we know they're going to be okay. Like, these are Hall of Fame all-star players, right? They didn't just forget how to hit baseballs. It would have to be the pitching staff for me for an extended period of time. Because, like I said, Matt Strom and Jeff Hoffman just made an all-star game. You just traded for Carlos Estevez. You just traded for Taylor Banks or whatever the hell his name is. And by the way, Banks and Estevez are the only guys to have clean innings in the last 3 games as Phillies bullpen relievers. So it would take like the bullpen to leak for an extended period of time and the pitching staff to continue to struggle for me to be like, oh boy.
Yeah. The reason I asked is because I know we talked about it on Wednesday. The Braves are now 6 games back. And they got a series coming up against the Marlins. The Phillies obviously on the road against the Mariners, and then continue the West Coast trip. If this goes on for 2 more weeks, let's say, how serious could this get? Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to doubt them. I'm just like, I'm looking at this West Coast trip. You had the demoralizing loss to the Yankees on the end of that series, right? That was a game they should have won. They obviously don't come away with it. You got the Mariners. Is this the series where they turn it around? They're on a 4-game losing streak right now. Then you go to the Dodgers. Is that the series where you turn it around? Is the Diamondbacks on the road for 4 games where, you know what I mean? Like, I guess it's just going to happen. And I do get your point. You just got to trust, because if the bats get going, if the pitching staff gets it together, then they can beat anyone at the end of the day. So, like, I do get your point.
My whole thing with losing the division, and trust me, I do not want to lose this division. I want to be the number 1 seed in the national. I want to have the best record, and I want to be that dominant team that we were hoping for before the season started, that they were in the first half, all of that. But is it bad for me to say that being the number, like, losing the division isn't going to change my mind on this team's ceiling, if that makes sense? Like, what were they the last few years? World
That's fair.
Series, and then Game 7 at home to go to the World Series. If they somehow lose this division lead, which, by the way, again, I know it sucks that it's down to 6. I know
Like, if they lose the division lead, is that Eagles level collapse?
No, because here's my thing. Again, it's such a different season. It's so long, and I need people to stop acting like the Phillies blew a 17-game division lead. Like, the most it got for the Braves was 9 in the beginning of July. I don't know if people understand, like, how quickly, especially playing each other like 6 more times, like, those things can change very quickly in baseball.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying I want it to happen. I'm not saying I'm relaxed with it happening. I'm just telling you, if I'm looking at what the ultimate goal is in this team's ceiling, it's not going to change my mind if they are the first wild card team and win 93 games, but the Braves go on a heater and win 94 games and win the division. Like, it's just not going to change my mind about what
it would really rub me the wrong way if that happens. Like, I won't lie to you. It gives me like major concerns if that were to happen, right? Like,
but why? But let me ask you, but like,
it's just like, that's demoralizing for that to happen. Like, that's not just for the fans, but in the clubhouse as well. Like, to finally have this season where you are ahead of the Braves start, like halfway through the season, you have a nice lead on them in the division. And then for the second half of the season to fall below them with the injuries that they do have. I know we're beat up. We're not perfect. Right.
No Strider, no Acuna, no Harris. No, I get it. I'm not
it would like really burn. I do agree with you. At the end of the day, they could lose the division in the regular season and still win the World Series. I do agree. Potential ceiling, all of that. It just would really, really be demoralizing if that.
Listen,
but I am with you. I know I sound negative right now. I'm just asking questions because
it would be really demoralizing.
What
I'm trying to push out there is that a 9.5-9 game division lead in early July isn't as big as people think it is.
That's fair. And it's not like the division was sealed, right? As good as the Phillies were playing, it's high as we were on them when they're in the middle of.
Here's to me where losing the division, and again, it's still going to hurt and be demoralizing if they were to. But here's to me how like losing the division at the end of the year would really hurt heading into the playoffs and push my expectations down. It would be different if the Phillies have this lead or a 4 or 5 game lead over Atlanta with a week and a half left to go.
Yeah.
2 weeks left to go.
Yeah.
That would mean you would have to go like 2 for your last 8, and Atlanta would have to go like 7-1 in their last 8, and that's how you lose the division. Then heading into the postseason, I would go, wow, that's a fucking collapse. How did they lose this division? But
yeah.
You're not going to tell me when it was July 25th and they had an 8-game lead that there's no way they can lose this division. Dude, they have almost 3 months of baseball left to play. It doesn't make you feel good, obviously. That means they're losing and Atlanta's winning, but that's a lot of fucking time. The Phillies, my point was, the Phillies could still play well to end the year. They could split with Atlanta or maybe Atlanta in 6 games.
Yeah.
Losing 4-2 sounds pretty bad, but you get my point. Atlanta, they could split with Atlanta, but maybe Atlanta goes on a 7-game winning streak at some point, 8-game winning streak. And the Phillies go 5-3 or whatever. Like, that's how Atlanta can catch up on 2, 3, 4 games very quickly. So,
yeah,
we'll see. I'm not excusing it. I obviously do not want it to happen. I just want people to know it's not the end of the world for where this team's trying to get to. Because, all right, here's how I'll kind of wrap up the show here with you. As ugly as this is, and as ugly as the last 2 endings to the seasons have been, they all come down to what? They come down to one thing, and that is the bats going cold, right? It's all going to be about timing with this team, whether they're a wild card team or have the best record in baseball still. It's all going to come down to, are these guys smoking lightning hot in October?
At the right time. Yeah.
Or are they anywhere near this? Because they could have the best record in baseball, and if Kyle Schwarber, Alec Boehm, and Trey Turner go cold, they are going to lose to a team. But if Bryce Harper and Trey Turner are on a heater, and Castellanos is hitting 293 like he is right now, and Stott's starting to heat up, they will win a World Series. Like, that's what it comes down to for me. So
it's fair. It is fair. It's a fairest way to look at it, honestly. I guess it leads us in, like you said, to end the show here. This 10-game road trip. What is your feeling on this 10-game road trip? Because the reason I asked that about the Braves is because it does feel like this could be that moment where maybe the Braves could go on a 5-game win streak, right? And really, really tighten that gap on the division. You have the Phillies going to the Mariners for 3 games, the Dodgers for 3 games, Diamondbacks for 4 games on the road in the West Coast. All 3 pretty solid teams. I mean, obviously the Dodgers are up there with the Phillies when it comes to one of the best records in baseball. But when you look at it, like, what is a successful trip for the Phillies? Let's just start there. Take the Braves out of it. What would be a successful trip to kind of turn things around in a sense? 4-game losing streak, 3-7 in your last 10.
So it's a 10-game road trip, right? Because it's 3-3-4. I believe they have 4
against the Diamondbacks.
The Diamondbacks, right?
Yeah, 10.
With how they've been playing, 5-5 is a successful road trip. You come back 500 against these teams, then okay. Like, if you win 2 out of 3 in Seattle, lose 2 out of 3 against Dodgers, or vice versa, split with the Diamondbacks, you come back 5-5. That's a successful road trip with how things have gone.
Yeah.
Anything with a winning record is how I think this team gets back on track coming back home. If they come back 6-4 from this tough road trip, God forbid 7-3 somehow, I don't think they're going to be any better than that. Like, I almost want to say like 6-4 would be the max, but who knows if they go on a heater. If you're anywhere with a winning record over these next 10 games, that to me is when this team turns their season back around. If you're 500, I think it puts the ball in your court to turn things back around. You come back 3-7, something like that. That to answer your earlier question, that is when I'll start to get a little bit more concerned than I am right now. They come back 2-8 or 3-7, on this 10-game trip. Because, bro, I don't care if they've been playing better. The Arizona Diamondbacks should not take 3 out of 4 against you.
Right. And that's what
as long as you win one of the series out of these next 2 and don't get swept in the other, you are 5-5 at that point.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, there's a world where maybe they go 4-6 in the 10-game stretch, but they get 2 against the Dodgers. You might come out of that feeling a little bit better. Dodgers are right there, your direct competition in the NL. So, like, there is a world where just win that series, maybe you get 1 against the Mariners, get 2 against the Dodgers. Still, that's 5. That's still 5 if you do end up getting. Like, you would have to lose 3 almost. Like, you would have to lose 3 against the Dodgers if you win 2, or lose 3 against the Diamondbacks, excuse me, if you win 2 against the Dodgers to ultimately go 4-6 on that trip. Unless you get swept by the Mariners, which I don't see them getting swept in any of these series, but.
Well, I'll tell you this, Scotty. I'll tell you this. And I know they went out and added Randy Arozarena to their offense and whatever. I will add this. The Seattle Mariners' Achilles heel for this team has kind of been scoring. They are so goddamn inconsistent. They don't have a ton of power. And they are scarce at scoring runs. If the Phillies go to Seattle, and I don't care if it's Tyler Phillips, I don't care if it's the Arnold kid or whatever, I don't care if it's a bullpen game, whatever. If this team gets shelled in 2 out of the 3 games, or all 3 games, God forbid, against the Mariners, and lose the series or get swept, then even before this thing is over, trip is over, my worry will rise a little bit, because this is not an offensive juggernaut you are about to go face. Okay? So,
like, not if Tyler Phillips, right now. Like,
if Tyler Phillips can throw a complete game shutout against the Cleveland Guardians, he better not get shelled against the Seattle Mariners. He doesn't have to be perfect. He doesn't have to give up 0 runs. He could give up 3 runs, whatever the case may be, put him in a chance position to win. If he gets shelled, I'm really going to be like, man, what is up with this team? You don't shut out the Guardians and then get shelled by the Mariners offense. That can't happen.
You look at the Mariners. I mean, it's kind of what you're saying. They're not that great of a team, right? Even on the road playing against them. You look at their last 10, they're 5-5. They've lost 1. So they're not hot right now either. It's not like they're on this heat streak. You look at their last couple series. I mean, you don't want to compare head to head, obviously, but we're just talking about where these teams are at going into the matchup tonight. They lost the series against the Red Sox 2-1. They beat the White Sox in a series. They swept them. The Angels, they got swept by in a series. They lost the series to the Astros 2-1. And then before that, they got swept by the Angels again. So, like, this is not like this
Mind you, the Los Angeles Angels are a poverty franchise right now.
That's what I'm saying. They've gotten swept twice in the month of July. So it's not to say, the Phillies are playing better baseball right now. No, you can argue they've been worse. But there is room to turn this around, like right now, like tonight. So, man, it's just like if they go and they drop the first 2, I'm going to be sitting here like, well, God, and like my skepticism just starts to go up.
Tonight's an important game for them. I really mean this on this trip for the series as a whole, because as much as we're as fans are in their own heads right now, that's what it's going to fester to with this team and these players. And if you go out and you win tonight, you set the tone for the trip, you set the tone for the series, and you put yourself in a position that you only have to win one of the next 2 to win the series. Or, all right, we got to, you end that losing streak. You got that bad taste out of your mouth. You won tonight. Yeah. Let's go handle business tomorrow. You lose tonight, and that losing streak gets to 5. Now you need to win the next day, not to lose a 6 straight series.
Yeah.
Now you start to get tight and stress and things get in your heads at the plate and while you're on the mound. Tonight is a very important game for this team, and it concerns me because I know he's been pitching well, but you do have an inexperienced young kid on the road for this game.
Yeah.
So it's important, man. Bryce, buddy, wake up.
Man. Yeah.
Trey, wake up.
Need your leaders to step up, like you've been saying. It goes as the bats go. These guys got to step up. They're making the big money at the end of the day.
And Topper, man, I don't know if you were sending a message against for the team, or trying to wake people up, or just trying to give guys a day to clear their minds. Do not keep tinkering with this lineup on this road trip. Like that last game. Like, I don't know if you were okay with getting swept. I know they only lost by 1. Could have won the game. Whatever. That lineup was despicable.
Yeah.
And again, it could have been to set a tone, to wake people up. That's fine. Send a message. But now tonight, when this lineup card comes out later, Scotty, I better see Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto, whether it's Marsh, then Costi, vice versa, Bryson Stott, Austin Hayes. That better be the lineup card thrown out tonight. I don't want to see Johan Rojas out there. I don't want to see Edmundo Sosa out there. I don't want to see any more shit. That has to be the 9 tonight. You were off yesterday. Your bullpen's rested. Go win a fucking ball game tonight on the West Coast.
Yeah, you need it. You need a W. You lost 4 in a row. You need to go out there and manufacture a win, right? Yep. Like, that's what we're talking about here. At the end of the day, do what it takes to just get one win today. Right. And then we go from here.
That first domino has to fall. And like I said, to me, it's tonight, man. And it's not the end all be all, but I say that because, like I said, you win tonight. You get that losing streak out of the way. You get a better taste in your mouth and you start to get positive. And now it's okay. Let's try to take care of business tomorrow. And if you don't, then you have a series decider on Sunday. You lose tonight, 5-game losing streak. You have to win Saturday now, not to guarantee a 6 straight series loss. And then you have to win Sunday back-to-back to not guarantee a 6 straight series loss. So tonight is a very important game for this team to get their minds right and kind of start to turn things around, man. But it's going to be huge, and I think you have an advantage. I think the Dodgers, I know they made some trades, obviously for Jack Flaherty at the deadline. The Dodgers pitching has been an issue. Right now, first of all, prayers out to Freddie Freeman. I don't know if you saw that. I've been wondering because I've been, obviously from a gambling perspective, I've been, things with the Dodgers games, and Freeman hasn't been in the lineup. Something, complications with his son, like his 4 or 5-year-old son. I saw a report yesterday by someone that said like prayers out for the Freeman family. He went into full body paralysis or something. So obviously I'm not going to talk about a depleted Dodgers team because of that, but we know the back end of their lineup already is poor. It just is a poor end of your lineup. You're missing Mookie, you're missing Muncy. Right now you're missing Freddie, your pitching cert. So it's not like, I know it's a West Coast trip, and I know on paper these teams should be very tough competition. This is not the worst of the worst right now for the Phillies.
Yeah.
So,
and if you get through this, man, there is a light at the end of the tunnel with the next two series. You got the Marlins back at home. 2 games, it says, against the Marlins. It's weird.
I hate that.
2 games back at home against the Marlins, and then 4 games back at home against the Nationals before you head to Atlanta. So
sounds like 5-1 or 6-0 to me right there, buddy, if they get things right. So again, this West Coast trip could trigger a big run, get that division lead back up, and we'll see, man. But guys, that is going to do it for this edition of the Phaithful Phanatics Show. Obviously, if you guys are watching on Twitter, YouTube, we obviously appreciate you, but please hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Help us out. Help us reach our goal of our first 200 on the channel. We'll be back Monday breaking down this Phillies Mariners series, hopefully in a very positive manner, Scotty, talking more Eagles training camp, more offseason stuff. And also we'll be getting into turf talk for all of you NFL fans, not just Eagles based, but the NFL as a whole over the weekend, and getting some clips and some live streams out for you guys in the coming weeks. So if you don't already, obviously subscribe here, but also subscribe to the DSM NFL Turf Talk YouTube channel for all that content as well. Have a great rest of your day, great weekend, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
Appreciate y'all. Peace.